you so much for your time. I'm sure you've had now time to read this report, probably even before it came out. What did you take away from it?
Well, I mean, this was never about determining who were the assassins of Jamal Khashoggi. This was about exhibiting the courage to ultimately identify that individual in public based upon all of our intelligence reports. And, of course, that person is the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. And so, I appreciate that President Biden did what President Trump failed to do. At that time, Bob Corker, the chairman, and myself as the ranking member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee invoked a provision of the Magnitsky Law to seek such a determination. President Trump basically was in a cover-up for MBS, bragged to Bob Woodward that he saved MBS at the end of the day. But here's the truth at last. And now the question is, beyond what the administration has done, and I applaud for the administration making this public, observing the rule of law, following our own domestic law, and some of the preliminary actions. But I believe there has to be more done.
Yeah, and that's the really important question. Let me just dig into the report for one quick second, specifically the assessment. It assesses that this decision or this assessment that the Crown Prince was responsible was based essentially on two factors. One, that the Crown Prince is in control of all of the security and intelligence agencies of the country, and the involvement of a key advisor and members of Mohammed bin Salman. Do you think more evidence should have been released as to what is implicating the Crown Prince in this? Does this go far enough in revealing what the U.S. knows about his involvement? Because, quite frankly, this is an assessment that, as you mentioned, we knew about several years ago. As my colleague pointed out, Andrea Mitchell, we reported on it several years ago, but it doesn't provide specific evidence about these assessments.
The challenge always is to reveal information that might ultimately also reveal your sources and methods, which we need to protect in order to be able to continue to do these assessments throughout the world, and giving as much as possible to make the determination. I know that there's more, but I would just simply say that I think it's rather clear, and that the United States would actually do what the previous administration did not for years, which is to put the assessment out there in public with a high degree of confidence, which is generally talked about anyhow before. I think is a critical first step.
Yeah, no doubt that transparency is important. Let me ask you about what you just said. More needs to be done. Should the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia be sanctioned for his involvement in the killing of Jamal Khashoggi? Do you support the sanctioning of him?
Look, I understand that we need a relationship with Saudi Arabia. Our interests in many respects may be aligned, but whether we look at weapons sales to Saudi Arabia, who's also engaged in Yemen in a war that has created a humanitarian catastrophe, whether we look at some Magnitsky sanctions, and there's a wide array of them that should be considered directly on the Crown Prince, it would be my hope that we would send a very clear message, because otherwise what we send is a message to the world, whether it be to ally or foe, that you can assassinate an opponent and really face no consequences at the end of the day. Okay, you're the chair of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Would you meet with MBS if he came to the United States? No. Okay, but you're not willing to go to say that he should be sanctioned individually for his involvement in this? No, I said that maybe Magnitsky sanctions should be considered against MBS himself. Okay. Let me ask you, sir, if I can, about Syria really quickly. Another important issue. The Democratic Senator Tim Kaine from Virginia, he's criticizing President Biden's decision to order airstrikes on buildings in Syria that the Pentagon said were used by Iranian-backed militias. Kaine said offensive military action without congressional approval is not constitutional absent extraordinary circumstances. Congress must be fully briefed on this matter expeditiously. Do you share his concern? Do you believe that there was a legal basis for last night's military actions? Well, I haven't come to a conclusion whether there's a legal basis, and I agree with Senator Kaine that the administration needs to come and speak to their action. But I will say that the strike limited in the context in which it was, I think is appropriate, considering the Iranian-backed militias that have been striking at our troops and facilities inside of Iraq. And we cannot allow that to happen without consequence. Now, that the administration should have come sought an engagement with Congress before, certainly should have given it a heads up, I think is critical. And the follow-on of coming to Congress and explaining what they decided to do is something that's critically important. But the strike itself, at the end of the day, had they come to us and asked for approval, I certainly would have voted to approve it.
All right. And Senator, let me ask you really quickly while I have you about the Senate parliamentarians' decision ruling against that $15 minimum wage provision in the COVID relief bill. Should the Senate hold a standalone vote on the bill? And if so, do you anticipate it getting 60 votes?
A standalone vote on the minimum wage?
Yeah.
Is that your question?
Yes.
Yeah. Look, I mean, we could try that. The question simply is, I have two colleagues that have suggested that they won't vote for it, even if it was part of the COVID relief bill. And we know how urgent the COVID relief bill is to American families. So if they're willing to risk the whole COVID bill over the minimum wage, I doubt very much they would vote for it standing up, although I support it and would vote for it.
All right. Senator Robert Menendez, sir, thank you so much for your time. Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you.